Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on when you catch this video. Today I'm going to do something I've never done. I'm going to release two videos on the same day. This one and then the other one on Joe Biden. I don't know which one you'll catch first in the notifications, but both of them are available today. The one on Joe Biden is about his past, and this one on Trump is about his past. And since a great majority of black folks believe that Trump is a racist, there's no need of me following suit because I've never been one to follow the crowd. I read years ago that a dead fish is the only fish that goes with the flow, but a strong fish swims against the current. And since I'm not a dead fish, I don't just go with the flow. I study, I research, and I report. Based on what I've found, I must not know what a racist looks like, because with the support that Trump has given the blacks over the years, he's one hell of a racist. I'm sorry, but racists don't do the things that Trump has done. But true racists keep their thumbs on our head. They treat us bad, and we call them benevolent. I never tell anyone who they should vote for. I'm not like many other blacks who tell blacks they need to get out and vote for Democrats. And as a matter of fact, earlier today, our county judge here, she's not black, but she was on YouTube and on television telling everybody they need to get out and vote for Joe Biden and MJ Hagar, who's running for a seat down here in the Texas area. And just to show you that we don't study, it actually came out some time back that she didn't like black folks. So, but I'm not here to talk about either one of them, but I'm just had to throw that in there. But I never tell anybody who they should vote for. I don't tell blacks they should vote for Republicans either. That's their business. In reality, I don't care. The people who tell you to vote for, in essence, are telling you that they don't believe you have the capacity to think for yourself. I share information for the people who want it. And for those who don't, good riddance. I searched for Biden's benevolence, and as I stated in the other video, he's always talked a good game, but he's never delivered anything positive for blacks. Trump has given quite a bit of money to medical research for various diseases. He may be crude, he may be crazy, he may be rude. But how many of you kind and moral people donate anything, time or money, to anyone in need? But in spite of that, I'm going to focus on what he and his racist tendencies and behaviors have done for black people since he's so racist. Listen if you want. If you get offended, that's your issue, not mine. I don't even care if you leave negative comments. I'm not going to even turn the comments off. If you want to leave something bad, go ahead. If you want to try to influence somebody against what I'm saying, go ahead. I don't care. But the more and more I watch the crowd, the more distance I put between myself and them. I was taught years ago to observe the masses and do the opposite. So as much as we complain about Donald Trump's response to the virus, did you know that he donated his fourth quarter salary of 2019 to fight coronavirus? Or that he donated his first quarter 2020 salary to Health and Human Services to find therapists? Or that his campaign was donating meals to hospital during the crisis? I bet you didn't, because the television didn't tell you that. But I'm not going to even focus on that stuff. I want to focus on his relationship and how he's treated blacks. I'm going to share some of his history, but also, like I stated on the other video, it's not going to be in chronological order. And once again, I don't care who you vote for, but you should know what you vote for instead of who you vote for. That's a big difference. Most people in society go out and vote for a who instead of a what. And let me explain that a little bit. All we know is we need to vote for Joe Biden because he ain't Trump. But what we don't know is, what does Joe Biden stand for? And all we need to know is, don't vote for Trump because we don't like the things he say and do. But what does Trump really stand for? Now, you got to put your thinking cap on and start doing some research. And that's part of the problem, a big problem in the society. Most people don't think. And I remember reading something Henry Ford said. He said, thinking is hard work. That's why so few people engage in it. So most people don't know what their chosen candidate stands for. They just know they belong to the party that they vote for. Now, Trump is widely criticized for not giving many charitable donations. Well, he has given donations to many blacks, including Magic Johnson, Walt Frazier, Nat Moore, and Russell Simmons, for their charities, of course. He's made contributions to political candidates, Democrats and Republicans. But more than to anyone else, Trump has actually made 14 contributions to Democrat Charles Rangel up in the New York area, a black Democrat, and he's donated to him 14 times. He complained before about comedian, late night show host Jon Stewart mocking Herman Cain in a racist way. And remember when Michael Jackson was going through all of that with the family suing him for supposedly touching the kids? And I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't know what transpired during those events at his home. All I know is, if the accusation had come out saying that he was doing this to somebody else's kid, why would these other people let their kids go stay at his house? So it had to be some other motive there. They were after money. But he defended Michael Jackson against his accusation that he was a child molester. Michael Jackson actually lived at Trump Tower. And because of the relationship Trump and Michael had, and he hadn't seen him for a while, so he went up and he defended him when all this stuff was going on. And Michael Jackson actually turned around and praised him in a song for having earned his wealth with dignity, not through extortion like his accusers. And Michael Jackson wasn't the only person to ever reference Trump in a positive way in a song. Many of your rappers did it. When Michael Jackson died in 2009, Trump said he was an amazing guy, but beyond all else, he was the greatest entertainer I've ever known. He had magic. He was a genius. He was also a really good person. And when you got to know him, you realized how smart he was. He was brilliant. Trump also praised former Congressman and Oklahoma Sooner great quarterback J.C. Watts. And he said he admired J.C. Watts for his passion and principle, whereas other people dismissed Watts for being a Republican. And the only reason they dismissed Watts for being a Republican is because he was black. Now, if you really want to find out where J.C. Watts stands and what J.C. Watts believes, you need to get his book, What Color is a Conservative? It's an excellent book. And you will see what J.C. Watts talked about his dad being Democrat, but having all the same values as the Republican Party and not the Democratic Party, which is why he became a Republican. In 1999, Larry King actually asked Donald Trump if he ran for president, who would he choose to be his vice president? And Trump smiled and replied to Larry King, Oprah. I love Oprah. Oprah would always be my first choice. He added, she's really a great woman. She's a terrific woman. She's somebody that's very special. And he insisted if she'd do it, she'd be fantastic. I mean, she's popular. She's brilliant. She's a wonderful woman. I mean, if she'd ever do it. That same year, Jesse Jackson had a major conference for minorities and businesses, minority businesses. And he actually praised Donald Trump. And this is what he said. He said, when we opened this Wall Street project and we talked about it, he gave us a space at 40 Wall Street. And see, most people don't know when they were talking about Trump not allowing blacks in his properties, he actually gave Jesse Jackson the whole floor in his building for the Rainbow Push Coalition. And Jesse said, which was to make a statement about having a presence there. And beyond that, in terms of reaching out and being inclusive, he's done that too. Last, he was part of our panel workshop on what are the challenges and opportunities. And so this, a year later, Donald Trump will speak for a few minutes. Challenges and opportunities to embrace underserved communities is what Donald Trump talked about at Jesse's event. And Trump's generous welcome for Jesse Jackson's affirmative action pushing business was a precious rarity. The New York Times reported that a senior fellow at the conservative Manhattan Institute worried that Jackson would make a lot of companies nervous by pointing out which companies were not meeting his standards on affirmative action, hiring, or racial sensitivity, adding that it's a very intimidating message. In contrast, Trump thought it was the right message and said more blacks and minorities should rise in American corporations. He also donated thousands of dollars to the Rainbow Coalition. In 2007, Trump received the Muhammad Ali Entrepreneur Award for his dedication to the less fortunate and minority groups while successfully establishing a vibrant business that enhances the communities it does business with. Now, this is another thing we've heard about when we talk about his Mar-a-Lago resort, and we're not getting the true story. And heck, what I found might not be a true story. But it's amazing that we only take one side of a story and consider it to be gospel truth, because we said Trump wouldn't allow blacks at his resorts down at Palm Beach either. But let me give you what I found, and I found this in more than one place. And the stuff I found wasn't stuff that just came out. I actually found the original articles for the years that this stuff happened. Now, all of the social clubs down in Palm Beach refused to allow Jews or blacks into their establishments. If one of their white members was married to a black or Jew, the spouse would not be allowed into the club. So guess what happened? In the fall of 1996, Trump's lawyer sent copies of classic movies on discrimination to each member of the Palm Beach Town Council. The movies were A Gentleman Agreement, about a journalist exposing anti-Semitism in New York, and the other one was Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, about a white woman who brings a black fiance home to meet her parents, her white parents. Now, they did a reboot with that, with I believe Bernie Mac and Ashton Kutcher, and I think it was just titled Guess Who. But it was reported in the May 1991 issue of New York Magazine that social clubs at Palm Beach not only do not allow blacks and Jews to become members, they do not let members bring them as guests. And in 1991, a writer for Vanity Fair asked Donald Trump why he wasn't a member of the Bath and Tennis Club. And the word came that he wasn't invited to join. And he responded, utter BS, he said the actual word. He referred to them as phonies. And he argued, do you think if I wanted to be a member of that club, they would have turned me down? I wouldn't join that club because they don't take blacks and Jews. In December of 1996, he filed a lawsuit in the U.S. District Court down in Palm Beach, alleging that the town was discriminating against Mar-a-Lago, partly because his Mar-a-Lago was open to Jews and African Americans. And the lawsuit sought $100 million in damages. Now, I don't know. I didn't look to see if he won a lawsuit or if he lost a lawsuit. It's not relevant for the point I'm making right now. In 1992, Charlie Rose interviewed Donald Trump, and among various topics, Rose asked him about the election for mayor of New York City. And Trump actually took the opportunity not only to praise David Dinkins, the first black mayor of New York City. He said that Dinkins has really done a great job in terms of coming back, and I also think he's a great human being. I think he's a very fine man. He helped me, but he was tough. He was strong. He was very community oriented. He was very much for the people and was someone who really lived up to his word. Now, Trump went to fight for a lot of blacks up in the New York area. Now, I know we hear about the Central Park Five and what Trump said about it, and you don't make an excuse for that. But it's amazing that we criticize Trump for the statement he made, but we let the young man's father get away with forcing him to confess to a crime that the kid know he didn't do. But we don't say anything about that father, but we criticize Trump. But in 1986, the NAACP had been forced to leave New York. And at the time, they had about 500 members nationwide. And despite having their headquarters in New York for 77 years, they found they could no longer afford to operate in New York. They lacked the support from the city government. Mayor Ed Cook had made an insufficient offer for assistance to help the organization stay in New York, so it actually moved to Baltimore. But they decided to still hold their 78th annual convention in the New York area. And consequently, Donald Trump took the initiative of helping the NAACP by hosting a pre-convention party and by agreeing to speak at the convention. He defended the organization and said the NAACP should have a place in the greatest city in the world. But it's the same old story. Because of this administration, organizations are forced to leave New York. And at the end of the event, the executive director of the NAACP complained that New York City still suffered a dark side of hatred, bitterness, and intolerance. But Trump at least was among the supporters of the NAACP. And he was named the chairman of the New York Citizens Committee for the NAACP convention. And he would also donate money to their annual gala. And many of you know that Jesse Jackson ran for president in 1984 and 1988. Some of you younger people might not know that. But he became the first black to run a nationwide primary campaign for the presidency of the United States. And at the time, many rich white people actually hated the fact that this black man was running for president. But among those who legitimized Jesse Jackson's efforts was actually Donald Trump. Now, looking back, Jesse Jackson said that Trump created for many people a comfort zone when I ran for the presidency in 84 and 88. And although many others thought it was something laughable or something to avoid, he came to our business meeting here in New York because he has this sense of the curious and a will to risk to make things better. So aside from his style and pizzazz, he is a serious person who is an effective builder for the builder people. And in January of 1997, he was given an ovation when he announced that he would grant offices to Jesse Jackson's civil rights group, the Rainbow Push Coalition, as I mentioned earlier, at 40 Wall Street, which is a 72-story building. He's pushing out a lot of good things, said Mr. Trump, who noted that he and Mr. Jackson had over the years become good friends. He actually received the Ellis Island Medal of Honor, along with Rosa Parks and Muhammad Ali. And you've seen those pictures of He and Rosa Parks and he and Muhammad Ali on the internet in various places. And the award is actually given to individuals who have made it their mission to share with those less fortunate their wealth of knowledge, their courage, their boundless compassion, their unique talents, and their selfless generosity. They do so while acknowledging their debt to their ethnic heritage as they uphold the ideals and spirit of America. He worked with Mike Tyson to benefit cerebral palsy and other medical research. That same year, he donated money to Al Sharpton's National Youth Movement organization. See, it's just a lot of stuff that we don't know because you got folks pushing a narrative. If you flip between every news station is saying the exact same thing. So what does that tell you? That means somebody is writing a script for every news station that's talking bad about it. And like I said, I don't care if you vote for him or not. I don't care if you vote for Biden or not. I'm just telling you, you need to get all the facts before you make a decision. You know, my baby sister always tells me a term. She said, a lot of black folks are lactose intolerant. And so when Hurricane Hugo hit Puerto Rico, what color are the people in Puerto Rico? Okay. In 1989, Donald Trump gave his airplane to transport aid and relief supplies to the people who were impacted by it. Nelson Mandela was visiting the United States in 1990, and no one would allow him to rent an airplane to travel throughout the United States. And Trump stepped in to help him. His original airplane that he wanted to give him was in the shop, so he told him he would give him a 727 out of his fleet. The United States government and private charter companies refused to rent Mandela a plane to do his 8-city tour. And Christine Dolan, who was organizing the trip, said they were very thankful to Donald Trump for helping them out. Now, over in the Bronx, what color people live in the Bronx? All dark-skinned people back then. A boy who lived in a group home needed corrective foot surgery, and they didn't know how it was going to get done. And the young man's name was Marcus Okenda. And Trump came to his rescue, and he paid for the surgery. Okenda is, I think, a Puerto Rican name. And the reason I know that, my wife used to work, one of the teachers that used to work with my wife's last name was Okendo. He received a Presidential Medal Award from the Freedom Foundation for his work with inner city youth in Pennsylvania in 1995. What youth live in the inner city? I mean, be honest with yourself. You can lie to me, but you can't ever lie to yourself. He donated $30,000 to the Harlem Hell House for babies who were born suffering from their mother's drug abuse, alcohol addiction, or AIDS. The founder's name was Clara Hale, who was also known as Mother Hale. And on her 87th birthday, he handed her a check and told her this is to help keep you going. What people lived in Harlem then? Because that was in the year 1992. I said back then because the makeup of Harlem today has changed quite a bit from what it used to be. And he also donated money to the Dance Theater of Harlem, as well as the Inner City Scholarship Fund. Now, Trump actually gave a gentleman named Wesley Autry a $10,000 check after he saved a 20-year-old who had actually suffered a seizure and had fell onto the subway tracks. And Trump called him a hero and donated $10,000 to him. Mr. Autry is a black guy. And see, we want to keep talking about how bad this guy is. And like I said, I read something years ago. No, I didn't read it. I heard a pastor say this years ago. He said, I'd rather be in a foxhole with an atheist who craves for freedom than in a foxhole with a Christian who wants to be subservient. So let that one sink in. He also donated money to the Naomi Campbell's Fashion for Relief program, which was raising money for victims of Hurricane Katrina. Let's be honest. The only victims we saw were black. And Naomi was speaking at a Fortune's Most Powerful Women International Summit in London, and she said this. I asked him for money, and he said, how much do you want? I said, well, this person gave that. And he said, okay, I'll match that. And that was it. He worked with Shaq. He worked with Alonzo Mourning for their charity events as well. He worked with the Muhammad Ali charity for Parkinson's disease. And that's a sensitive thing for me because my dad died last year from Parkinson's disease. And most of us remember when Jennifer Hudson's family was killed. Members of her family were killed. And what did he do? He put her and her family up in his hotel in Chicago free of charge while the investigation was going on. And he also provided her and her family 24-hour security to make sure that they were protected at all times because of what had happened. And later on, he would donate $350,000 to Alonzo Mourning's charities. I mean, he's not donating. That wasn't small change he donated to Alonzo Mourning charities. And as a matter of record, he's actually donated to Alonzo Mourning's charities more than once. He donated $25,000 to Camp Kizzy, and both of those with a K. And Camp Kizzy is Keisha Knight Pullum's charity. And you know who Keisha Knight Pullum is. Most of us know her as Rudy from The Cosby Show. When it flooded in Louisiana in 2016, he donated $100,000 to those victims down there. That same year, he donated to an organization called the Kind Foundation, which is a charity for Malawi, which is a country in South Central Africa. He donated money to them so the kids could get some desks they needed for school. He donated to the Life Project for Africa. He donated to the Haiti Relief Fund. He donated to Black Enterprise. You know, we see the Black Enterprise magazine all the time. He donated to the Dwayne Wade Charity Foundation. He donated to the Ray Allen Foundation multiple times. He donated to the Chris Paul Foundation. He donated to the Tiger Woods Foundation. Well, I guess black folks don't consider Tiger black since he made that statement. He donated to the Mu Boule Foundation. I guess I pronounced it right, M-U, Mu. You know, the secret society organization, the Black Boule. Mu Boule is their actual philanthropic arm. That's a black organization. He's donated to the Serena Williams Group and former baseball great Darryl Strawberry's Foundation. He also donated the largest generator ever to the country of Haiti to generate electricity back in 2005. In 2013, there was a bus driver named Darnell Barton who stopped his bus and stopped a woman from jumping off a bridge and committing suicide. And when Trump found out about it, he wrote a check for $10,000 and gave it to Mr. Barton, who's black. He said Mr. Barton is a hero. Now, back in 1983, he helped the Negro Baseball League. And you know, the Negro Baseball League was around up until we started integrating into the Major League, the white Major League. But they still were holding little events. And so in 83, he helped them with their annual reunion event after their other donors had all bagged out on them. And his organization, along with two others, were the underwriters for this event. But I say the two biggest things for last, and I'm not through yet, but I just wanted to talk about his donations up to this point. But I saved the two biggest things for last that most of us, I guarantee you, about 99.999, like Herman Cain, 999 playing, don't know he did these things right here. I guarantee you. In 1966, not 96, 1966, he actually assisted a guy named Burt Lancaster with the creation of the Martin Luther King International Freedom Games. That's really serious there. But get this one. In all his years of donations, only one time has Trump ever donated to the Secret Service, the organization that protects the president. The only presidential administration that Trump donated to the Secret Service was under Barack Obama. So while you're sitting here saying he hates Barack Obama, all the years he's been giving donations, the only presidential administration where the Secret Service received money was when Barack Obama was president. So we need to stop being lactose intolerant, as my sister says, and learn a little something before we start running off at the mouth. Earlier this year, Louis Farrakhan had something to say about black folks criticizing Trump. Farrakhan said the FBI sole purpose was to go after blacks. And since Trump has been in office, Trump has been going after the FBI, which is something no other president has done, not even Obama. And Farrakhan supported Obama. Now, based on all of this information I've shared, you still going to call this man a racist? I know many of you won't care because your mind is made up. And sadly, for many black folks, they cannot escape the grips of the crowd because they don't want to get singled out for actually using their brain. CNN, the colored news network. CBS, the colored broadcasting station. ABC, always been colored. And NBC, nothing but colored. And many other affiliate stations have told you who they want you to think Donald Trump is and who they want you to think Joe Biden is. As I've stated before on other videos and also in my book, But Hey, What Do I Know? Available at Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And through me directly at myronjones@gmail.com. You can see my name under the video where you see my YouTube channel. That's how you spell my name, one word, at gmail.com. But I've mentioned before about Booker T. Washington. And many blacks, led by W.E.B. Du Bois, said Booker T. Washington was too soft on civil rights. But what most blacks didn't know was that Booker T. Washington was working very hard so he could finance, and he was financing a lot of the civil rights lawsuits that were going on behind the scenes. In my opinion, Booker T. Washington lived by the Matthew 6 creed. Do for people and keep it to yourself. But I also believe that when someone helps you and other people publicly denounce them, I personally think you have an obligation to stand up for that individual, which is not what happens. But we have a problem in our race. As long as we can get something out of you, we will keep taking and taking and taking. But when the times get tough, we turn our backs on those same people. I remember listening to a guy say something years ago, and he said, 99% loyalty is 100% disloyalty. You need to let that sink in. Barry Goldwater, in my opinion, also lived by the Matthew 6 piece as well. Barry Goldwater had been supporting black issues and causes for 23 years up until the 1964 Civil Rights Act. He had been given the NAACP and the Urban League money in his home state of Arizona when they almost had to shut their doors on more than one occasion because of lack of funding. Black folks turned their backs on him with the exception of Lincoln Ragsdale, who publicly said, all of these black folks told me they would help us, but Barry Goldwater was the only one delivered and brought me a check. Ain't that something? We criticize Barry Goldwater because of his position on the 64 bill. And if you do some research, and I did the research for you, And if you go back and listen to some of my other videos, I'll tell you why Barry Goldwater took the position he took. But if you don't want to listen to the videos, get the book, because I expand on it in the book. But hey, what do I know? Available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and MyronJones@gmail.com. But black folks turned their back on it. But other than Lincoln Ragsdale, the rest of those blacks that they had been supporting kept silent. The Urban League would years later speak up on his behalf, because in 1991 they presented him with a humanitarian award for his dedication to the organization over the years. And they said they would not let the decision he made in 1994 make them turn against him, because that was one decision and they know what he had did for many years with regards to supporting blacks in their causes. And like I said, if you listen to some of the other videos or you get the book, you'll see why he made the decision he did. What does that have to do with Donald Trump, you say? Well, he has done all of these things for blacks that we don't know about over the years. But the only thing we can find in our hearts to do is criticize it. We are not serious or true to ourselves when we say we only care about what Trump has recently done. Why do we only hear about the negative stuff he's done recently, but we ignore all negative stuff about Joe Biden? I've always said that negative sells, but positive doesn't. Because he's made HBCU funding permanent, which no other president has ever done, he's now being criticized for that. The only time negative doesn't sell for blacks is when it comes to Democrats. That's the only time. HBCU presidents have had to go to the White House each and every year and sit at the table and basically beg and grovel for funding from prior presidents. Trump basically said, y'all should not have to keep coming to the White House to beg for money. Let's make this a permanent thing. Under his First Step Act, which reversed some of Joe Biden's 1994 crime bill legislation, over 7,000 inmates have been released, with between 96 and 98% of them being black. Ironically, and amazingly, and sadly, when it started to come out that more blacks were supporting him, then we started hearing all of the news sound bites on a daily basis of how racist he is. Who is feeding the words into the news feed? So if a racist gives this type of support to blacks, I apparently don't know what a racist is, and neither do you.